Hello, I'm Jackie Hayes, founder and chief marketing strategist of Crayons and Marketers, a full service marketing agency here in Nashville, crafting culturally sensitive, data driven content marketing for ambitious brands. And it's National Black Business Month, celebrating the tremendous impact Black owned businesses have on the economy, our communities, and their families as they build generational wealth. For me, as a Black woman and Black founder, it was important to do something special to shine a spotlight on Black founders this year, especially after the last 16 months. The pandemic disproportionately impacted Black businesses in general, but also created opportunities for some Black founders to pivot and innovate. So we developed the Black Founders Courageous Comeback series, where during the month of August, we invite Black business owners to share their experiences from the last few months to not only display their resilience and to showcase their amazing businesses, but to also let the world know that we're here and ready and capable to do this work. Perhaps even more important, to hopefully inspire someone who may be on the verge of giving up. Joining me today is Thresette Briggs, founder and chief performance officer of Performance 3, a national leadership development firm that believes every leader can be high performing with the right opportunity and the right culture. They provide virtual and on-site keynotes, training, coaching, consulting services delivered through conferences, leadership meetings, learning series, retreats, strategic planning, voice talent, and workshops. So she's doing a whole lot. So welcome, Trissetta. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Jackie, and it is a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be sharing and talking with you.
Thank you so much. Well, I've said a lot about the company, but tell us a little bit more about you and some of the things that you do at Performance 3.
Well, absolutely. Well, as you said, Performance 3 is a national leadership development firm, and we do believe that every leader can be a high performer with the right opportunity and the right culture. That is our why. And because of my experience working with companies in transformation, in turnaround, and transition, I really think that there are opportunities for leaders to be high performing, and they just need to make sure that they know what those are. So I help them create the culture through the different venues that Jackie mentioned. I love what I get to do every day. And through those learning series, leadership meetings, retreats, strategic planning, and yes, even some voice talent.
I was surprised. Like, I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes. And I got to do a commercial for my alma mater. So it's really, really interesting. But through that, I really get to help leaders identify what makes them high performing and what is the actual culture that they need to establish around them to make that happen. And then what are the tools and things they need to build to actually be that? So I have a lot of fun in what I do, and I believe that I get to use my gifts and my strengths every day.
And you said a culture. So how important is culture to an organization?
Oh my gosh, Jackie, it is of utmost importance, because I think a lot of us have heard that term, culture eats strategy for lunch. And it's an old term, but it is so very true. If you don't have a culture that supports all the great strategies and ideas and actions you put into place, because we have a lot of great minds working on a lot of great things, right? But if you don't have that culture that supports those things getting done, nothing is going to happen. There's not going to be any high performance. There's not going to be really follow through. People are just going to go back to the way they do things and then more of the same. So culture has to drive the strategy, the actions around those strategies, and all the implementation that subsequently comes with it.
Absolutely. And so when we think about 2020, and that was hard on all businesses, but specifically Black-owned businesses were hit hard. And as we think about the trifecta here, you have health, wealth, and social injustice taking place. How did those things impact your business, Performance 3, and how important was culture to sustaining your business last year and thriving for 2021?
Well, there's definitely a lot to unpack there, because the social health and wealth, those pieces definitely impacted my business in this way. Of course, because I have been certified as a diversity practitioner since '94. I've been doing this work for a long time. So because there hasn't been as much momentum, a lot of us in that arena were kind of getting, we were getting disheartened and frustrated and feeling like, well, is this work really worth it? But we have a passion for it and we love doing it. So we kept moving forward. We kept doing what we could and we kept integrating it into wherever we could. But because of last year, what happened certainly with George Floyd and then everything else, that highlighted all those gaps, and companies became more aware of what they really needed to do, and they saw the seriousness of actually doing it. So that part of my business, that core topic area, really enhanced. And I had been doing it years before, but it really enhanced last year. So it really impacted my business positively, and I consider that a blessing because I was able to shift and pivot to do more in that area than I had done in a long time. Now, my business is all about high performance, and it's about helping people establish a high performance culture. And that high performance culture includes diversity, just like any other strategy. So I always have integrated it into the strategy that I have, and what pieces of diversity, equity, inclusion need to be integrated into the rest of the strategy. Not this standalone piece, so it can be taken off the list or check marked and done, but it's embroiled into everything else. So that's how it's been able to, that's how it impacted my business last year. Is I got to do more of what I love, of something else I love, because all of what I do, I love. But I really was glad to see and hopeful and excited about what's coming next in that arena.
And you
I answered all of your questions.
Yeah, you did. No, absolutely. Matter of fact, I was about to touch on one other thing. You mentioned how diversity and inclusion is not a check mark item, right? It's not something that you get into the emotion of the moment in 2020 and how all of a sudden you're doing A, B, and C. The moment passed, things settle back down. Next thing you know, you're back to business as usual. It is a cultural shift for an organization, right?
It truly is absolutely a culture shift. And I got an opportunity along with a couple of other people in this arena, in that DEI and belonging arena, to talk about, to give input into an article in the Indianapolis Business Journal. And we talked from our perspectives on what would it take for companies to really do this and follow through. And I was very candid in mine and said, be of the understanding that you're not going to get everybody. Trying to make 100% is not a realistic goal. If you get 80%, if you get 70%, you're great. You're doing great.
To me, that's so low. 70% is low. And now, when you say that, are you meaning adoption of the company's DEI strategy?
Absolutely, because some companies will just not budge. They think that what they're doing is okay and that they don't need that work. That is the fact. And so if you get, they think that they're doing fine, and they won't shift anything they do until there's some real pain that comes with them not doing it. Because that's change leadership is an area that is very important for being high performing and establishing the culture. You have to shift something. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, as we know. So if you don't shift, nothing is happening. So if you have a mindset and a worldview that we're fine, and there's no pain or nothing happens as a result of you believing that, then you won't do anything different. And some companies feel that way. Some leaders feel that way. And honestly, some leaders feel like any talk about DEI is divisive. So I've been involved with companies that call that the D word. I mean, it's just very interesting that celebrating
that just made me, I had a reaction to that. I got like a little bit mad about that. I don't know. I just had some type of response to that. That's
you have a visceral response to it, because you feel we're the same, but we're all different. So we got to understand the sameness and we got to respect the differences. Right. And if you cannot recognize that you have to talk about the differences and appreciate them, and call that divisive, then where does this discussion begin? So then you have to start thinking about, do I choose other words to get them to talk about it? Or do you just say, you know what, this person isn't ready, this organization isn't ready? And sometimes that's what I've had to do. Now, in corporate America, when we were working with it, certainly I didn't have that choice to say, you guys aren't ready, I'll see you later. I was working for them. But in my business, I've had to assess where companies aren't ready and just decide when you are, okay, give me a call. I'd love to work with you. But what I see, you're not willing to shift and you're not committed to that shift. There's a difference between willingness and commitment, as we know. Willing is, hey, this is a great idea. Yeah, somebody do that.
Anybody but me, but y'all go do it. Right.
Yes. Willing, the commitment piece is where you are going to follow through and you're going to change the culture and policies and procedures and everything to really make it happen. So that is the difference. And that has to be the case for this work to actually happen.
Now, what I love about consumers is that consumers are starting to vote with their wallets. And so companies that are not pursuing this area and being committed, are starting to, their consumers are starting to pull away from those organizations. I've broken up with plenty of brands that I know that they are not committed to truly authentic diversity and inclusion practices. And so I've had to break up with some favorite brands, and it was heartbreaking, but at some point you got to stand for what's right. And so and the best way for an organization to feel that how serious you are is when you stop shopping and spending your money with them.
Yeah. And so that's unfortunate that that's the case, but that is the case many times.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that leadership, I love that word that you use, change leadership. When we have leaders in place to guide these companies and they are completely shutting down any attempt to better understand their employee base. I mean, you need to win it internally before you ever expect to win it externally. So if you're not putting the things in place for your own employees to feel like they belong and be treasured and valued, how are you going to sell that to your audience, your customers?
Exactly, because the question your employees have, if they see, because leaders are visible and they see what you're doing or not doing. And if what they see is you saying, you don't see me, you don't respect or understand my differences, and you don't seem to be attempting to, that is going to really put a dent into the sense of belonging they have there, as well as the engagement level that they're going to have and motivation with doing anything really as high performing as they can for your organization, for your company. It's going
to impact your ability to attract talent, because once you get the reputation from being out of order, that starts to spread, and they're just you're not going to have a pipeline of diverse talent.
It does. Exactly.
And so when you think about a lot of these companies, when they're doing product development or when they're doing marketing campaigns or anything like that, if you don't have a diverse group of individuals at the table that decisions are made, then it's highly likely that the products that you create are going to be tone deaf. The marketing campaigns that you create are going to be off track because you didn't have anybody that looks like your target audience in the room, right? Exactly. So how can you even do that? And so going back to 2021, so it sounds like this was an opportunity. 2020 presented an opportunity for you to really dig into something that you were already doing, already passionate about, but now you really got to share that gift with the world. And so now in 2021, are you seeing that work continue, requests for that work continue?
I am. And again, that's back to why I'm more hopeful these days. I am seeing more requests for that work. I'm seeing more organizations that are being intentional about it. I'm working with several right now on different phases. They started a phase last year and they're doing the second phase this year. But the companies that I'm working with, I'm helping them understand this is a process, not an event. And it is definitely something that is continuous improvement. Again, they're not going to do a diversity training and check the box and everybody's going to be okay. Back to that belonging piece of changing hearts and minds, that's how that happens over time, intentionality, and everybody being engaged in doing that. In fact, after this, today, I'm going to work with a company where we're in that phase 2, and we're doing some pieces of the training that is important for them to continue that great work. So it is very much ongoing and much many more companies are seeing the value of continuing and integrating this work into what they do every day.
Right, right, absolutely. And so how are you, Thresette, how are you marketing your services now? Pre-COVID, what was your marketing strategy? Post-COVID, well, I can't even say post, can we? We want to say post-COVID so bad, and we just can't seem to get there. So later stage COVID, what are you doing now?
Mm-hmm. Well, and marketing is an area where I bow to the superior skills of the people that do that. I bow to you,
thank you.
and they need to reach out to you for some help. But I've sort of learned a little bit of marketing, and then I put things out on social media. I try to add value. It's not just about, look what I'm doing. It's here's what I'm doing, and here's why, and here's how this can add value to you. And so I've gotten a lot of work from referrals these days. But I think I'd love to talk more about what a marketing strategy would really look like for my business. And I'm really focused on making sure that I am minimizing any gaps there. I have 5 people working for me now as subcontractors, and I probably need 1 more, but I've sort of leaned away from having headcount because I just don't want to do that at the moment. But I have a strong network team of contractors that I use as subcontractors. And each time I need them, I can just call because I know their depth, I know their breadth, I know what they want to work on and what they don't. I know their heart, I trust them. And so that model works for me. And I think that, that's what I'm going to stay with for a good while.
Right. And, referral marketing is a marketing strategy, and so I heard somebody describe cold calls. I forgot what she said, but it was so classic. So basically she was saying that that's just not something you need to do if you can build your referral system. And so that is a strategy. And so it sounds like that has worked for you, especially in this space. Now, do you work in that ask, like at a meeting with a client? Do you have that conversation? Like, well, when I was a financial advisor, we used to say all the time, well, who else do you know can we help to show the same value? Is that something that you've started to work into that's especially on a project, like a closing project script?
It actually is. I've gotten much better at that, Jackie, because when I started my business, I was like, oh my gosh, I really got to get into this sales mentality out of my mind, because it was crippling me. Because you think about that, selling ice to an Eskimo. Well, that's not ethical, and that's not integrity. And so I had that picture, and I had a lot of hard sales given to me. So I didn't want to do that. So I had to figure out ways to sell, because you got to sell, right? So yes, I do work that in, and I have a lot of strong networks. I mean, I work with women in NABO, I work with women in WeBank, I work with, other networks that are really, really pretty powerful. But that ask is so important. You got to learn how to do it well, and you got to feel comfortable and confident with it. You can't feel like, oh, I don't want to ask for the sale. Well, why not? If you don't ask, you don't receive.
You don't get.
So, yeah. So I've learned how to build that in. I'd say, yeah. So I say it in different ways depending on what I'm doing with the client, and I show the value of my work. And then at the end, I ask them, is there anything else I can do for them? Is there someone else that they know that needs this opportunity? Things like that. Yes, I try to build it in a way that's comfortable for me, but I'm still working on it. It's a continuous improvement thing for me.
It's hard. It's hard to work that in. And so I think so many times business owners get caught up in the digital space. We do a lot of, as a content marketing firm, we do a lot of digital work, but it's something about once you've done a good job and you have for this client, asking, who else can we help, and having that courage in to do that, that's courageous to be able to say that. But once you get it smooth, you say it so, so clear and so easy. And some people push back and say, well, it sounds so salesy. I'm like, look, do you want the work or not? You can't get caught up in a whole bunch of how people are going to take it, because they understand. I think most people understand what this means. They're probably more so surprised that you don't ask who else that you can help. And so that's something too I wanted to share with our small business audience when we're thinking about coming back from from COVID, that your marketing comeback may not always be digital. It may be, in addition to your digital, adding in that referral marketing piece, building that language into your conversations with your existing clients so that it's nothing more hurtful when you have a friend or a colleague that said they just had bought a service that you did and you're wondering, why didn't you get it from me? Oh, I didn't know you did that. That just breaks my heart every time when we don't share our story with our network or people we know or existing clients so they understand the full extent of services that our businesses offer. And that has happened to me a couple of times. And every time I'm like, well, we do that, right? And apparently I have not been doing a really good job in letting people know all the things that the company does. And so when you open that up and are truthful and say, hey, who else can we help? This is everything that we do. It's a softer sell than getting a PPC ad, and say, hey, click on me. So yes. Because things that are relationship built or based tend to do better anyway, and you get a different type of client.
I love the point you made because that is so important. And I've recently got work because I did that. I had those conversations. I was just talking and it got around to a way that I could enter that conversation. I said, and this is something that I've been doing. Oh, I didn't know you did that. So like you said, not doing a good job of putting that out there, but I grabbed that opportunity and I'm grabbing it a lot more now. And I had to really focus on why I was struggling with doing that. And one of the reasons I found was a barrier is that I was raised, in the middle of Kansas, in the middle of the country. So it's the middle of the middle. I don't even know why they call it Midwest. It's just middle. But you don't brag. You don't don't do that. You should let your work show for itself, and then people. It just.
And that's a trap that women get pulled into. That men don't have a problem with that. That's as a women, we get. We were raised that way. That. Not to do that, not to brag, be prim and proper. And look, this is business,
Yes, exactly. And so after I got enough people saying, I didn't really, you need to talk more about what you do. I said, what? I really do. And I started figuring out ways to do that.
Yeah. And so I love that you said that because culturally as women, we've been given that little sound bite and it's taken root in our minds, and we brought that in some capacity to our business. And I think we're starting to, as a body of women, we're starting to realize that, hey, we have to be listening out for the opportunities that we can say. Now, it is a fine line. You don't want to be perceived as bragging. It is a fine line that you have to, because it's an art to it almost, right? Mm-hmm. And so then you can just be listening for your opportunity, and then you come in and it's natural. People don't feel sold to. They're not be like, oh, here we go. They're not doing that, because you coming in with another sales pitch about everything that you're doing, because you don't want that experience for people either. You just want to listen for your natural moment. Be like, well, boom, boom, boom. And that's important. And that's an important networking skill, which is also a marketing tactic that you can put in there, be it virtually or in person, just talking less, listening more, so that when you do speak and you're talking about your business and your services, it's such a natural part of the conversation that people don't even know that they're being lured in, but they are, because you just done it so artfully. So That's just, that marketing strat, that is part of the strategy.
You're absolutely right. It is a networking skill, and it is. I love the way you said that, because it does really have to be organic and feel organic to the people that you're talking to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you want potential clients to know about Performance 3 right now?
Well, what I want people to know is that Performance 3 is about helping them really identify their high performance of their leaders and their organization, and really zeroing in on what they need to do to maximize that and be the absolute best they can be. And as I said, I do that through the ways that were mentioned, but I want people to know that we help leaders and organizations achieve high performance. And we work with you collaboratively to customize that and help you achieve it through strong skills in execution and implementation.
Awesome. And finally, what words of wisdom, as you've got so much here, can you give other Black founders on striving towards their comeback? You know, some businesses did okay last year, some barely survived. And so they're still in survivor mode. What words of wisdom do you want to share with them?
Well, first of all, I would say hang in there. And if you at all can understand what your gifts and strengths are, your spiritual gifts, if you're a faith-based person, and your professional strengths, marry those together, and that will make you the most powerful. It will get you through those times when you're wondering where your next meal is going to come from. And people will see that passion and that is what you do. It's been interesting that I've had people say, you have a gift. So, well, that is, I thought I was doing what I do, but when you are using your gifts and your strengths, people see that and the work will come. And to have the networks around you that really support you and celebrate you, not tolerate you, but celebrate you. Really
say that again. Celebrate you.
They celebrate you, not tolerate you.
Love it. That's a hashtag. Hashtag.
Absolutely, it is. And those are the networks I'm in, and I love that. You know, they pick me up when I need it, and they check me when I need it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, those are the things that I would say. When you're doing something that you're not particularly gifted or strength at, when you're at times when you're struggling, it's going to be even harder. So that's why I say make sure you're marrying those two together as you're doing this.
Absolutely. Well, this has just been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Thresette. This has been, I knew you were amazing. I just had tremendous respect for you and your business. And I've been in rooms with you. And so I knew the wisdom that you were going to share today was going to be amazing. And so I do appreciate you taking the time today on this Friday morning to spend it with me this morning. If people want to get in touch with you, you know, reach out to you about services, especially in the DEI space and understanding, because small businesses, and we think about organizations, so some small businesses, they think they're too small to even start to think about culture or some of the DEI practices of having policies in place. You know, is that true? How soon should you start those conversations?
You should start them when you become aware that you might need it. And it doesn't matter the size of the organization, because you don't want to get far down that growth line and realize, oh, we need to do this, because you may be behind the 8 ball already on some things you needed to do. So you want to integrate that into the beginning of your strategy, just like everything else. And I would say, in the spirit of our conversation earlier about making sure people are aware of what you do and what you have, Performance 3, we do have a network of consultants, but I personally am certified in many different things, including things that help culture, like the Intercultural Development Inventory. That is something that's used by Disney, Boeing, Walmart, Target, to understand the intercultural competence of their employees and help them along the continuum to be more effective. And I also have 2 patents with the United States Patent and Trademark Office to help deliver operational excellence. So I am certified and credentialed in that area to help organizations succeed and truly achieve that high performance they desire.
So like I said,
to add that too, in the spirit of our earlier conversation.
Absolutely. Exactly. We want to make sure we understand everything that you do, so people can reach out and they can find you on social and your website.
Yes, find me on social media. Now, if you just put in the word Thresette and Google that, you will find me. Because I'm the only Thresette.
And your name is in the show notes. Just check out the show notes for that.
Exactly. And my website is bestperformance3, the number 3.com. Okay. I'm on LinkedIn, and I am on Facebook as well at Performance 3, Instagram Performance 3, Twitter Performance 3. So definitely would love to connect with everyone and talk about how we can help your organization be more high performing and help you as an individual leader be more high performing too. So awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure, Jackie. Thank you so much for making this so much fun.
Well, good. I mean, Amazing. It's just been fantastic to share this time with you and to hear your experience and how you are helping organizations be their best selves. And so that is so needed, especially today. So thank you all for joining us for the Black Founders Courageous Comeback series. Don't forget to like our YouTube channel. I'm telling everybody it's new, so we need as many people to like it as possible so you don't miss an episode of the Black Founders series or any of the future series that we are creating. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.